Hello, it's Scott, the Warhammer guy. I will be making Warhammer videos again. I just want to put this out there. Um, most of my reviews of movies and TV shows are pretty negative. It's been a while since I've seen something good, and I decided to watch Trigun again after I realized I never finished the manga. So I went back to the manga and noticed it's a lot longer than I remembered it being. And they added like a side story. I decided to watch Trigun again after watching the movie. The movie's really good. It's anime. And I know a lot of you guys aren't anime guys, but I still recommend this show to anyone. I think this is a show that anyone can really enjoy. It's really, really good. It's a pretty complicated show about morals and, hardships in life. It's a very complicated show to talk about, and they do a really good job of tackling these hard things to talk about, like mistakes, death, and survival. It's a really, really good show, and I think what I like most about it, it's very faithful to the manga. I think they even make changes to the manga. And the changes, normally when something is changed, it ends up being worse. Like, when they do books, when they try to turn books into movies, it's usually worse. But this time, I actually really like the changes they made. The people who made this show, Madhouse, they really understood the topic, and I really think they did pretty much a perfect job of keeping the show alive. I think I did a review of Shaman King before I had a microphone, and I think for the Shaman King review, I said the show was very good, and I was hoping for season 2 because they did a really good job on that too. I did end up skipping a lot of episodes because the first manga of Shaman King was them explaining how it worked. And if you knew how it worked, it's really annoying to watch that again. So, the picture I'm using on screen is probably the most iconic picture I can think of. I think this is, when you think of Trigun, this is usually what you think about. I went on Bing and I pretty much got the first 10 pictures, and I'll show you most of those pictures. I don't want to spoil the show because I really do think it's really fun watching. I do think the show is a lot better the second time around, because if you watch it the second time, you can see how far they planned. And it's pretty, it's amazing how far they planned. And the flashbacks, they do the origin story later. And the origin story hits pretty hard. Even if you know it's coming, the origin story hits pretty hard. And watching it again, it is a show, it's a very emotional show with a lot of really good action, really top-notch action. Some of the best action out there, I think. And it's a show that, it made me emotional. It's a very touching, it's hard to describe. It's a really, really good show. So I think I'll introduce the characters. I'll talk a bit about why I like it. And I'll talk a bit about recommending it. I just watched the last episode, not even 20 minutes ago. I wanted to watch every episode before I put this on the internet, and I think I got a good understanding of it. Now, the book added a side story, which I haven't finished. It's a pretty big change, especially to one of the other characters in the book. From what I understand, the guy who made the book, he hated it when he killed off characters, and the side story is a different version where he didn't kill off the characters. So it's a more like happier version, but it's also more intense because there's more enemies. Because people don't die, there's more enemies around. So I would go as far as say it's more intense. So the image you're seeing on screen is the infamous Vash the Stampede, the guy with a $60 billion bounty on his head for killing 1 million people in a city and destroying the city, completely annihilating it, which makes him like the worst guy ever. He's the main character of the show. It's like a western, so you see like the revolver. It's like a western style. It takes place very far in the future, but for the most part, everything is pretty easy to understand. Most of the stuff you're seeing, even with it being in the future, it doesn't go too far off reality. There's a couple sci-fi things here and there, but it doesn't go too crazy with it. It's a show I think anyone should be able to understand. It's pretty easy to digest. Now, I really highly recommend it. It's just a really good show. I love the show. It's really, really good. I might end up buying like shirts and stuff because it's really that good. It's a very touching show. They did a really good job of it. I got off track. So this is the main character, Vash the Stampede. Pretty iconic look. And I know it's an anime. I know some of you guys aren't into that. But they did such a good job on the show. It feels natural. Once you get used to it, it really does feel like a natural show. The movements, feel really lifelike, and it's really good. So anyways, he's a $60 billion man. They explain this in the very beginning, and he's a very wanted man. But the twist of the show is he never from it's a really hard show to talk about because it tackles so many things. Basically, from the moment he was born, he was taught to save people, and he's been saving people his whole life. And the incident, they call it the July incident, where he blew up a town. It's kind of a spoiler, so I won't really go into it. But he feels really bad for that. He feels very, very bad for what happened there, and he doesn't even remember it. It kind of goes into spoiler territory if I go too deep into it. But I'll introduce you to the characters. It is a very fast show, so they go through the characters pretty quick. So let me go through some of the characters. And I love each and every one of these characters, even though some of them only show up for a bit. And before I do that, I do want to say one thing. This show is like 25 episodes, and a lot of them don't affect the story. The story ones are really like 10 episodes, so it's something you can get through pretty quick. So it's a pretty short show. I'll change the image out for a different one. This is probably the most famous picture, but I'll change the image out. The screen might go black for a bit, so I'm gonna change the picture out for a second. Give me 1 second. Stick with me. Let's see. Where's... There it is. Okay. Okay, there we go. It's a little blurry, but it is a 1990 show. So there's the second image. That's a better look at the main character, and the guy in the background is very interesting. He's a priest. He's got a cross on his back, and he's one of the most. These two characters are honestly one of the most unique characters I've ever seen in fiction. And I've seen a lot of fiction. And I read a lot of books, Warhammer, Horus Heresy, and all that. And these are still two of the most unique characters I've seen in fiction. Vash, the main character, Vash, has all these weapons and skills, but he uses them to save people, using weapons to save people. And Wolfwood, the guy in the background, is a priest with a lot of burdens. He made a lot of mistakes in his past, so he's trying to make up for it using, trying to save people with being a priest. But he's no slouch either. He also has weapons he uses to save people. But Wolfwood is a very lovable guy who usually it's a very complicated show, but Wolfwood is usually the first one to give in to his ideas. Like, he has all his ideas, and he's usually the first one to forsake them to survive. He'll give up everything if it means survival. While Vash will find a way to survive and keep his ideas. He'll do anything to keep his ideas alive. So that's what makes the two characters different. They're very similar. They're both fun-loving guys who have trust issues because of the Western setting. It's hard to trust people in a Western setting. And it is a show about the survival of the fittest. So everybody's very dangerous. But yeah, I really like these two characters. So it's Nicholas D. Wolfwood, the priest, in the background with the cross. The cross, you'll see later, but the cross is pretty cool. I want to say what it really is, but it's a spoiler. It's not really a cross, but it's awesome. It's hard. I'll spoil it if I go too far into it. I don't want this to be a spoiler review. I spoiled Love and Thunder for Love and Thunder, but I'm not going to spoil Trigun. I have a lot more respect for the show. So, and then you got Vash with his famous revolver, and he also has other tricks up his sleeves. So that's the main two characters. Wolfwood disappears a lot. He has his own thing going on. He doesn't really want to spend time with Vash, as seeing him... Vash is a better version of Wolfwood, and Wolfwood seeing Vash save people without being selfish makes Wolfwood kind of jealous, if that makes sense. Wolfwood has a hard time being around Vash because he keeps getting jealous, and he knows that Vash is better than him, but he just gets jealous all the time. So it's a really good dynamic. Vash is like the ideal man, and Wolfwood is trying to repent for all his sins, and he gets jealous every time he sees him. It's a really interesting dynamic. I'll change the image out. I want to go through all the characters because the show is very quick and it does a good job. I didn't get all the characters because I got a lot of things I gotta do today, so I don't want to go through all the characters. Let's see. This one's pretty fancy. I think this is from the book. This one might go into spoiler territory, but this is a pretty good image. I think this is from the manga. So you can see the rocks. It's clearly trying to do like a western thing. There's Vash in the middle, you can see him fully. You can see the priest on the right. Pretty cool image there. And you got the two girls over here who are constantly following him. What's interesting about these two is they're actually insurance ladies, and their job is whatever damages Vash cause, the $60 billion wanted man, whatever damages he caused, it's their job to report it and to insure it. So it's these two job to constantly following them around. They're in the bottom left. I am trying to point them out using my mouse, but I realize you can't see my mouse. These two characters, the insurance ladies, they're actually like the heart of the show. And the more I think about it, the more I think these two insurance ladies are actually the author. Sometimes the author, the creator of something, will put themselves into the books. And the more I watch the show, the more I think the insurance ladies are actually the author. It could also be Vash, the guy in the middle. He could also be the author. But I feel like it's the insurance ladies. They're the author. You got Millie, who's the optimistic, who is very childlike, she's living in a dog-eat-dog world, and she hasn't had any bad things happen to her, but she knows, how to fight, and she trusts anything Millie says. Millie's the other insurance lady girl, and Millie is more pessimistic, knows, the dangers of the world, is ready to fight, and she's like the more calculated one, while Millie is more the child one. And Millie is really the heart of the show. Millie really represents what the show is going for. It's about really nice people in a dog-eat-dog world. It's hard to explain the show. It's something you have to watch. And in the background, you got some of the best villains. The guy in the top right and the guy in the top left are some of the best villains I've seen in a while. Especially the guy in the top right. I think he's one of the best characters, ever. And what's funny is he's only in 6 episodes. But he's one of the best characters I've seen in a long time. His name is Legato. I think he shows up around episode 14. And he's just a real treat. Anytime he shows up, he's just really fun to watch. He's one of the best villains out there. And the guy in the top left is Knives. I won't go too much into him because basically the entire show revolves around Knives, who's in the background. And yeah, Knives is his name. Knives is the name of the main bad guy. And Knives is just, the worst person ever, with no with no real morals or principles or anything like that. He's a very, very selfish guy. And Vash is like the opposite. He does everything to protect people. What's interesting about Knives is even though he hates everyone, he really does love animals and trees and nature and all that. So he loves nature, he just hates people. So that's interesting. It's an interesting character, to say the least. And this is one of the more dramatic pictures I found. I'll show you a couple more. I'm just trying to sell the show, because I really do think you should check it out. You got this one. I think this one sells the show pretty good. It's Vash and the insurance ladies running away, while also looking like they have a good time. And I think this is the first or second episode, and this is how they meet. And these animals they're riding on are pretty sci-fi, and they're never explained, even in the books. They're just never explained. And they're pretty cool design. They look kind of like Digimon, which I like. And, you know, it is a Western, so it shows some of the action. He is covered in blood. He got hit a few times. But because he's the main character and this is like an action show, you can see he's pretty used to it. You know, it doesn't bother him that much. And you can see Millie's over there smiling. She's really the heart of the show. I'll do like two more and then I'll probably wrap it up. I know this isn't gonna be a good video. I don't really have the capabilities of describing the show, so I don't do it justice. Let's see if I can do. I got this one. This is kind of a similar one. So yeah, you got the insurance ladies, you got the priest with the gun, you got Vash in the middle, you got Rem, which is like his mom. His mom's like to the left, and you got Knives and Legato in the background, which are the bad guys. Let's see. These 7 characters are really what the show's about. And it revolves around this show. And I think every one of these characters are amazing. And what's amazing is they're really only in the show for like 10 minutes or so. But they just make such an impact on you. Like I said, this is a very emotional show, and it got me emotional for a while. And it's hard to explain how good it is, how good the writing is. It's like masterpiece level writing, and the action is top notch. The action is like masterpiece. It's like a masterpiece. It's a hard show to talk about without spoiling it, because there's just so much I want to unpack, but I don't think I can. It's one of those shows that make a huge impact on you the first time you watch it, and I think it's even better the second time around. And I know it looks a bit silly, but I just really highly recommend it. It's just really, really good. In my last reviews, I said bad things about a lot of movies and shows. If you want me to, this is probably I think this is the first time I said good things about anything. And if you want to know what I think is good, this is Trigun. Trigun I think is good. So I really recommend it. It's like a masterpiece, and if I can get my thoughts out better, I could sell this show better, but it's a hard show for me to sell. But yeah, I just recommend it. It's on Hulu. Every episode is on Hulu and the movie. So if you have Hulu, this is just a real treat. I wouldn't recommend buying the DVDs because I've seen the DVDs are going for a lot. I'm guessing they're rare. This is a really old show, so I'm guessing they're pretty rare. So I guess the best way to watch it is through Hulu, which sucks because I had to sit through all the commercials, and the commercials, they're in the right spot. Like, this show was designed around commercials. Like, they had these clear stopping points where a commercial would pop in. But the commercials were so hard to watch. They were so bad and, like, political. Most of the commercials I've seen were political. Even, like, the car commercials, they were political. And they were just so hard to watch. If you can watch the show on Hulu, I'd try to watch it without commercials. The commercials are just so hard to watch. But yeah, I really like the show. I recommend it. It's really, really good. I could talk about the show forever, but it is a really complicated show. It's also very relaxing. I find it. So if you want a show to relax to, this is one of them. It has honestly some of the best writing I've seen in a long time. The writing is honestly, it might be better than Warhammer's. I always said Warhammer has good writing, but this actually might be better than Warhammer. So yeah, Trigun is really, really good. I know it's like a million years old, but I really enjoy it. So I think that's about as far as I can go without spoiling it. I know there's more characters to talk about, but this is like the main ones. So I think that's good enough. I'm not going to do like an hour-long review of it. So yeah, I really recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I can show you one more picture, and this one is just this one's just really cool. I was reading the book, and this was just really cool. I don't know how well this will show up on camera. And I know deleting the picture is going to be aggravating. This is going to be the last one. I just really enjoyed, let's see. I don't know how well it shows up, but I really enjoy this image. This is the manga. The manga is really good. I just think this image here is super creepy, and I just love Legato. He's just such a great character. He's creepy as hell, and it's great. I'm really into this sort of thing. Legato is such a great character. So yeah, that's basically my review. I don't know how much more I can go into. If you guys know about Trigun, I'd recommend watching it again. But yeah, Legato is such a great character. I love him. Even though he's a mass murderer, he's so complicated. I think that's what I like about him. He's a very complicated mass murdering guy, and he's great. So yeah, he's just a joy to watch. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't know how much more I can go into. So, thanks for watching. More Warhammer stuff coming out. Alright, bye.